Hello everyone, it is my great pleasure to welcome you at this online presentation organized by the group of young Italian crystallographers and talk you about formate-mediated magnetic superexchange in the model hybrid perovskite dimethylammonium copper formate. I'm Rebecca Scatena and I work at the Department of Physics of the University of Oxford. Hybrid organic-inorganic perovskites are currently being explored for the possibility to introduce multiferroic properties. Therefore, the possibility to predict and design the nature of the magnetic interaction between metallic centers based on the knowledge of the structure is crucial to the discovery of technologically relevant materials. In dimethylammonium copper formate, Jahn-Teller active copper 2+ ions are coordinated by 6 formate anions, forming pseudo-cubic cages that host dimethylammonium. The Jahn-Teller axis is shown in yellow and it alternates to an equatorial copper-oxygen bond in the AB plane, whereas only equatorial copper-oxygen bonds are found along C. As a result, in our material we found two structurally different superexchange pathways. One is symmetric and labeled equatorial-equatorial due to the formate forming just equatorial bonds with copper. The other one is asymmetric and labeled as equatorial axial because in this case formate has an equatorial and an axial Jahn-Teller elongated bond. Due to the structural analogy with inorganic perovskites, we wonder whether the good enough Kanamori-Anderson rules, well established for inorganic perovskites, are applicable to dimethylammonium copper formate. These rules are based on the virtual electron transfer between overlapping states, and the nature of the magnetic interaction is established by the electronic configuration of the metal sites, while the ligand simply participates with a pair of electrons in a single orbital. If from single crystal X-ray diffraction we can measure accurate high-quality data, we can appreciate that the spherical structural model will leave residuals of electron densities that are not randomly distributed. By the golden spheres in the structure, we can appreciate that they are located in bonding and lone pairs positions. However, if we refine the population on atom-center multipolar functions and therefore treat the valence electron density as a sum of a spherical and aspherical contribution, the residual electron density is now randomly distributed and much smaller. Moreover, from the measurements we reconstructed the charge density distribution of our material. Static deformation density maps are obtained from the difference between multipolar charge density and spherical charge density in order to visualize regions of electron density deficiency in red and excess in blue. The relative population of the multipolar function used in the refinement can be converted into electron occupation of d orbital shape functions. Reflecting the deformation density maps, the dx² minus y² is the only function semi-occupied and it is localized in the equatorial plane. Whereas the dz² function along the Jahn-Teller axis is fully occupied. In this way, we just determine the electronic configuration at the copper sites. The electron charge density distribution can be exactly partitioned to find atomic basins and bond trajectories based on its gradient. Moreover, details on local dilution and concentration of charge density are shown by the Laplacian function. Applying this partitioning scheme, we can compare bond properties beyond the mere bond length. For instance, equatorial copper-oxygen bonds show the same amount of electron charge density at the bond critical points. Also, equatorial and equatorial axial formate anions, which are different by symmetry, are however similar in the shape and amount of electron density at the bond critical points. integrated charge density over the two formates show that the equatorial axial formate has almost 0.5 electrons more than the equatorial formate ion. It's interesting to observe that this extra charge is localized by the axial oxygen and not redistributed over the intramolecular bonds. These results, together with the analysis of the bond critical points properties shown in the previous slide, allowed us to consider the two formates equivalent from the electronic structure point of view. The difference in charges between the two formates also highlight the larger ionic character of the copper-oxygen axial bond compared to the copper-oxygen equatorial bonds, where a larger charge sharing is observed. The temperature-dependent magnetic susceptibility of the methylammonium copper formate shows a strong one-dimensional antiferromagnetic behavior, fitted by the red curve. However, below 5.2 Kelvin, the drop in magnetic susceptibility suggests 3D magnetic border. Indeed, elastic neutron diffraction shows that below Tn, magnetic peaks are measured, and they are established by antiferromagnetic coupling along the equatorial superexchange pathway and ferromagnetic coupling along the equatorial axial superexchange pathway, in agreement with prediction of the Goodenough Kanamori-Anderson rules. Single crystal field-dependent magnetometry shows that the spin-flop transitions occurs when the magnetic field is applied along a crystallographic axis, which sets the direction of the magnetic moments along A. Density functional theory calculations perfectly agree with our experimental findings, where the equatorial exchange coupling is calculated to be strong and antiferromagnetic. The equatorial axial superexchange pathway is calculated to be weak and ferromagnetic, and the spin density is localized on the equatorial plane, whereas negligible along the Jahn-Teller axis. We suggest that the applicability of the Goodenough Kanamori-Anderson rules depends on characteristics of the ligand's molecular orbitals. In the specific, they should emulate the p orbital of oxygen by spanning over the whole molecule in order to guarantee that the superexchange happens via single molecular orbital. They should have an appreciable electron density at the extremal atoms that coordinate the metal in order to guarantee non-zero overlap to the magnetic orbitals at the metal centers. And finally, they should have a symmetric charge density about the middle of the ligand to ensure that any difference between metal and ligand bonds are mainly inferred by the electronic configuration of the metals. To conclude, I want to thank the great scientists involved in this research, Professor Piero Macchi, Dr. Roger Johnson, Dr. Pascal Manuel, the Swiss National Science Foundation as a main sponsor, the young Italian crystallographers for organizing this event, and of course, all of you for watching this video and possibly checking out the full research just published in Journal of Materials Chemistry C. Thank you very much.